guys, it's Brooke. Welcome back to my channel, or to my channel if you're new here. I hope you guys stay. So for today's video, I'm going to be telling you guys about this haunted lake known as Lake Ronkonkoma, which is right on Long Island where I live. And I'm going to be telling you guys all of the scary haunted myths about this lake and some actually true things that have happened at this lake that are just terrifying. I actually have visited this lake about twice, and let me tell you, it is one of the most eerie things I have ever seen, ever. So we are gonna jump right into these crazy myths and legends. But before we start, make sure you guys subscribe if you haven't, and also follow me on all my social media in the beginning of the video. It's also linked in the description below, and yeah. Let's talk about these haunted myths and what Lake Ronkonkoma is and all of that stuff. So, Lake Ronkonkoma. There are a ton of myths surrounding this lake, and while these myths do sound just like superstitious things that people might believe, there is actually some truth behind these myths. Before I talk about what happens at this lake every year, I'm gonna tell you guys a little bit of background about Lake Ronkonkoma. So Lake Ronkonkoma is Long Island's biggest and deepest lake. For the longest time, the Indians believed that this lake was bottomless because there were often people who would drown in this lake, and when these people would drown, their bodies would never be found. They just disappeared. So one of the myths that came about was that Lake Ronkonkoma is bottomless. However, some researchers somewhere found out that that is actually a myth, and that Lake Ronkonkoma actually does have a bottom, and it is 70 feet deep. So let's talk about some of the other legends of Lake Ronkonkoma. The reason why Lake Ronkonkoma is named Lake Ronkonkoma is because of a princess named Princess Ronkonkoma. Princess Ronkonkoma was a princess who died in the lake in the mid-1600s. So there are many different stories about her death and how she actually died. One of the myths is that she was walking across the ice one winter, and she was going to go meet this boy who she was in love with, who lived across the lake, whose name was Hugh Birdsall. However, her father, who was the leader of the Setauket tribe, forbid her from being in this relationship for whatever reason. She was a princess, he was a woodcutter, maybe that had something to do with it. So every 7 years, she would write letters to Hugh, and she would write them on bark, row herself out to the middle of Lake Ronkonkoma, and sail the letters off to Hugh. However, after being kept away from her love for years and having to be forced to be apart from him, Princess Ronkonkoma rowed herself out to the middle of the lake and apparently stabbed herself to death. Now, another variation of this story is that the princess actually drowned herself in the lake after finding out that Hugh had died, and that her body washed up in Connecticut, which is another reason why people believe that this lake is actually bottomless and that there are possibly underground channels to other lakes. Another legend, which is the story I grew up knowing about Lake Ronkonkoma, was that Princess Ronkonkoma, the lady of the lake, was in love with a boy who was in her tribe. And one day, a settler murdered her lover on the eve of their wedding. So as a result of losing this man who was the love of her life, she tied very heavy rocks to the bottom of her feet and drowned herself in the river. Her body was never found, and the legend goes that every year she comes back and takes another man's life to avenge the murder of the love of her life. Some people say that the princess can be seen sometimes just popping up along the shoreline or around the wooded area nearby, searching for her next victim. The reason why this particular legend is terrifying is because for decades, every single year, a male has drowned in Lake Ronkonkoma and died. Now, there's also a very creepy story about a lifeguard by the name of David who used to work at Lake Ronkonkoma for 32 years. He said for at least 30 of the years that he worked as a lifeguard at Lake Ronkonkoma, a male had drowned in the lake. Visibility in the lake is practically non-existent after going under for 10 feet. After that, it is just complete blackness. And in 1965, David has a story that is so chilling, it literally chills me to my bones to even talk about it. So apparently in 1965, David kept having this reoccurring nightmare, him being at Lake Ronkonkoma and a boy needing to be rescued from drowning. In his dream, he dives deep into the lake and starts panicking because he loses his orientation. And then when he rose back up and surfaced from under the water, he hears fireworks. So because he kept hearing fireworks in the dream, he assumed that this was occurring on the 4th of July. So David started warning all of his lifeguard friends, telling them that he keeps having this reoccurring dream, and although he doesn't normally believe in the paranormal, that he thinks that someone may drown on the 4th of July, so just to be extra careful and keep a lookout. Well, as his dream predicted, late that afternoon, a boy was swimming in Lake Ronkonkoma only to have a seizure and drown. David, just like in his dream, went to go rescue the boy, but by the time they got to him, it was too late and his body couldn't be found. After being under the water and searching for the boy for 45 minutes, he rose up out of the water and heard fireworks. Now, aside from these legends about Princess Ronkonkoma, there are also some legends that this lake has magic healing powers, and the Indians also believe there may be a great spirit of this lake that has the lake rise and fall with no correlation to rainfall. But I think the most terrifying legends have to do with Princess Ronkonkoma and her luring boys into the water and taking one with her every single year. I remember going there with my mom one time and literally just staring at the water trying to see if Princess Ronkonkoma would appear. She did not, but the story of her legend has interested me since, and I thought you guys would enjoy hearing all about this haunted lake that I visited that is right near where I live. If you guys want me to adventure one day and take you to Lake Ronkonkoma and see if we can see Princess Ronkonkoma and just look at the lake, or see if we can see any signs of these legends being remotely true, give this video a thumbs up. And also make sure you guys subscribe if you haven't already. I post videos every single Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you on Wednesday.